In the heart of the old town of Eldridge, a legend had persisted through generations. Eldridge, with its cobblestone streets and shadowy alleys, was a place where whispers traveled faster than the wind. The legend spoke of a song, a haunting melody said to be composed by the devil himself. Those who heard the devil's song were never seen again, vanishing into thin air or, some whispered, dragged into the depths of hell. Claire, a curious and ambitious young woman, had recently moved to Eldridge to work as a librarian. She loved the old town's charm and the rich history that seemed to seep from every brick and stone. Her favorite part of the job was cataloging the ancient manuscripts and dusty tomes that lined the library's creaking shelves. One rainy afternoon, as Claire was sorting through a neglected corner of the library's basement, she stumbled upon a peculiar book. It was bound in black leather, its cover devoid of any title. The pages were brittle and yellowed with age, filled with strange musical notations and archaic symbols. Intrigued, Claire carefully brought the book upstairs to her desk. As she began to study the mysterious notations, a chill ran down her spine. The symbols were unlike anything she had ever seen, almost alive with a dark energy. Despite her apprehension, Claire's curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to decipher the music. She transcribed the notes onto a fresh sheet of paper, her fingers trembling slightly. Later that evening, Claire couldn't resist playing the melody on the library's old piano. As the first notes echoed through the empty building, a sense of unease settled over her. The melody was hauntingly beautiful, yet deeply unsettling, as if each note carried a whisper of something ancient and malevolent. As the final note lingered in the air, the library lights flickered, and a cold draft swept through the room. Claire shivered and glanced around nervously. Suddenly, the piano seemed to play a few notes on its own, the sound reverberating ominously in the silent library. Claire stepped back, her heart pounding. "What have I done?" she whispered, her voice trembling. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, haunted by the melody she had played. Her dreams were filled with nightmarish visions, shadowy figures with glowing red eyes, whispers in an unknown language, and a feeling of being watched by something sinister. The next morning, Claire awoke with a start. Her room was freezing, her breath visible in the air. She felt a strange compulsion to return to the library. As she walked through the deserted streets of Eldridge, she noticed the townsfolk giving her odd looks, their eyes filled with a mix of fear and pity. When she arrived at the library, she found the doors ajar, despite being sure she had locked them the previous night. Inside, the air was thick with an unnatural stillness. As she approached her desk, Claire saw the black leather book lying open, its pages fluttering as if stirred by an invisible hand. Summoning her courage, Claire closed the book and locked it in a drawer. She resolved to forget about the song and the strange events of the previous night. But as the days passed, the melody continued to haunt her. She heard it in her dreams, in the rustling of leaves, even in the distant tolling of the church bells. One evening, as she walked home, Claire felt a presence behind her. She quickened her pace, but the footsteps followed, always just a few paces behind. She turned a corner and glanced back, but no one was there. The streets were empty, yet the feeling of being watched persisted. In the weeks that followed, more strange occurrences plagued Claire. Objects in her home moved on their own, shadows seemed to dance on the walls, and the haunting melody echoed everywhere she went. She realized with growing dread that she had unwittingly unleashed something dark and powerful. Desperate for answers, Claire began researching the legend of the devil's song. She discovered chilling accounts of others who had encountered the melody, all ending in madness or disappearance. The more she learned, the more she realized there was no escaping the song's malevolent grip. One fateful night, Claire sat at the piano, the black leather book open before her. She felt a compulsion to play the melody once more, as if an unseen force was guiding her hands. As the notes filled the air, the room grew colder, and shadows gathered around her. In that moment, Claire understood the terrible truth: the devil's song was a gateway, a summoning. As the final note hung in the air, the shadows closed in, and Claire felt herself being pulled into darkness. Her scream echoed through the empty library, then silence fell. Claire was never seen again. The townsfolk of Eldritch spoke of her in hushed tones, another victim of the cursed melody. The library remained closed, the black leather book locked away, waiting for the next curious soul to uncover its dark secret and play the devil's song. In the quiet village of Ravenswood, nestled deep within a forest perpetually shrouded in mist, an ancient legend was whispered among the villagers. The tale spoke of a melody so hauntingly beautiful that it ensnared the souls of those who dared to listen. They called it the Devil's Song. Ava, a young musicologist with a passion for uncovering lost tunes, had always been drawn to eerie folklore. When she heard of Ravenswood's legend, she knew she had to investigate. Despite warnings from the villagers, she set up residence in the old manor on the outskirts of town, determined to find and document the infamous melody. The manor, long abandoned, was a relic of a bygone era. Its walls groaned with age, and its rooms were filled with shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. Ava found it the perfect place to immerse herself in her work. She spent her days combing through old manuscripts and local records, piecing together fragments of the song. One evening, as a storm raged outside, Ava stumbled upon a hidden compartment in the manor's grand piano. Inside was a tattered sheet of music, the notes written in a hand that seemed to tremble with fear. Heart pounding with excitement, she realized she had found what she had been searching for, the Devil's Song. Ignoring the growing sense of unease, Ava placed the sheet music on the piano and began to play. The first notes were soft, almost sweet, but as the melody progressed, it took on a darker, more sinister tone. The room grew cold, and the shadows lengthened, creeping towards her as if drawn by the music. As she played the final note, a deafening silence fell over the manor. The storm outside ceased abruptly, and an unnatural stillness filled the air. Ava, breathless and unnerved, felt a presence behind her. She turned slowly to find a tall, dark figure standing in the doorway, its eyes glowing like embers in the dim light. "Who are you?" Ava managed to whisper, her voice trembling. The figure stepped closer, its features becoming clearer. It was a man, or at least it had been once. His skin was pale, almost translucent, and his eyes burned with an unholy fire. "I am the composer of that melody," the man said, his voice a chilling blend of sorrow and malice. "And you have summoned me." Ava's heart raced as the man's words sank in. The legend was true, she had called forth the devil himself. "You've played my song," the devil continued, "and now you must pay the price." Before Ava could react, the shadows surged forward, enveloping her in darkness. She felt herself being pulled into a void, the manor fading from view as an icy coldness gripped her soul. When Ava awoke, she found herself in a desolate landscape, the sky a perpetual twilight. The air was filled with whispers, the same haunting melody she had played echoing endlessly. The devil stood before her, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "Welcome to my domain," he said, spreading his arms wide. "Here, you will play the devil's song for eternity, and your soul will feed my power." Despair washed over Ava as she realized the full extent of her mistake. She had been lured by curiosity, and now she was trapped, a prisoner of the very legend she had sought to uncover. The piano appeared before her, and she found herself compelled to sit and play. The keys were cold beneath her fingers, and as the first notes rang out, she knew there was no escape. Back in Ravenswood, the manor stood silent once more. The villagers, sensing a change in the air, avoided it even more diligently, the memory of the young musicologist fading into another cautionary tale. The devil's song remained, a dark presence within the old piano, waiting for the next curious soul to unleash its malevolent power. And so, the legend of the devil's song continued, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurk within the shadows of forgotten melodies.